Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to build the cover um, for the robotics project that we're working on. Now, I'm going to be doing this separately on a Zoom, but I'm also going to show you guys here just in case you fall behind. So let's see. I'm also going to provide you with a list of instructions that I follow. I might change it as time goes on because I might add new instructions to make things clearer, but we're going to work on them. First things first, this is Tinkercad. If you aren't familiar with Tinkercad, I suggest you have a play around with it. You can move this by holding down the click button at the top left if you want to move the box up here, and when you finish with that you can always go home. First thing, we're going to rename it. The name, I guess we're going to call it box cover. Now, the box cover that we're going to make is going to look something like this. You can look down the bottom corner here. Now, all it is a box with some holes, and then underneath, instead of being a full box, you can see just at the top here there's little corner pieces here, and that's for screws that I'm going to show you. So let's go through how we go about building this guy. The first step is to create a box. We need to create, but this one's actually going to be a small box. So I'm actually going to go to basic shapes. I'm going to put a box in here. Now, once I put the box in here, I've got all these dimensions. First thing I'm going to make this, doesn't matter what color, I'm going to make it green because why not? Let's go with, actually let's make it pink. Doesn't matter, again, doesn't matter. We'll go with the length is going to be 14 by 14 by 2. So 14 by 14 by 2. I'm going to push enter. It's going to create this little plaque thing here at the bottom. Now with that little rectangle, I'm going to zoom in on it actually just a little bit by pushing this plus sign. I'm now actually going to put a cylinder in it, but the cylinder that I'm going to use is actually not going to be a full cylinder. It's actually going to be one of these void cylinders. Now when I drag this void cylinder over, you can see it's going to look a little bit different, and that's because that void cylinder represents a hole. Now the length of this hole, we want to make this one 5 by 5. It's going to be 5 millimeters by 5 millimeters. This hole is just like, at the moment they don't look like anything, but I'm going to show you what happens in a second. If I highlight out all of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this align button. I'm going to align it based on this shape. So if I click on the shape of if I click on this shape, then that's the shape that's going to be aligned to. I'm going to click the middle, and I'm going to click the middle, and then bang. That 5 by 5 circle gets put in the middle. But at the moment, it's just a weird shape. So what we need to do is we need to select it and go combine. That's this up the top here, this button at the top here, combine. That now makes a little square with a circle in it as a hole. You can see that cylinder's disappeared. That's because that cylinder was actually a hole. So the idea is, once we create the block and the hole, we say you guys are combined, then they pretty much disappear. And so yeah, if you didn't get that, you can stop it, go back and quickly rewatch it. But yeah, I might do it again just so you guys can see how I did that. So I'm going to move this one over here to the left by just clicking and dragging it and moving it. Let's do it again just in case you missed. So click and drag a block in. The block's dimensions are 14 by 14 by 2. We're going to make it pink because, again, make everything pink. We'll go enter for OK, or we just click wherever. Doesn't matter. Now we've got a little slab. Cylinder, click, drag. That's in here. Clicking on the corners, we want to make this 5 by 5. Oh, see, I lost it there. I unclicked it, but that doesn't mean this is broken. I can just click on this again and then change this dimension here to be 5. Done. Okay, now I've got an empty hole cylinder and I've got a rectangle. When I highlight them, I can then go align. Now it's going to ask which of these two shapes we want to align it to. We want to align it to this shape, so I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to click in the center, and then plonk, that puts it in the middle. And then once I've clicked the center and the center dots, I'm going to highlight the whole thing and go combine. Now we need 4 of these, but I'm not going to make 4 of these. I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm just going to go duplicate at the top, and then it's actually made a copy. We need 4 of them, so I'm going to duplicate it again. Oopsies, I've made a mistake here. Now, if I make a mistake, that's okay. You can just go undo or Control Z, and then yeah, makes a copy. It makes and does it. You can also just go Control C, and then Control V, and that will also make a copy. We're going to move. Oops, again. Made a mistake, that's okay. Undo, click. And because these are joined together, I can move the whole thing around. Now I'm going to move those over to the side. Now time for the big part. I'm going to zoom out a bit. Now I'm going to get a large box. Now that large box is going to be pink. We're going to go with the size is going to be, in this case, we're going to go 160 for the length. The width is going to be 165. The height in this case is going to be pretty large. It's going to be 85. Whoa, we can see now that this thing's taking up a lot of space. So I'm actually going to zoom out a bit. I'm going to move it onto our plane. And it doesn't matter if it's not completely, if these things are in the way. I might actually select them all by clicking and dragging and moving them. Get out of the way. Just so I can fit this big box here. Now if you ever want to check what the dimensions of something are, you can just click on this bottom thing here, so we can see it's 160 this way, 165 this way, and the vertical one is this little dot here. So 85 tall. Now this is great, but it's not a box. So to make this a box, what we're going to do is we're going to make a hole. So we're going to put our box hole. See how this has got the dotted lines here? We're going to drag this in, plonk it here. And this one we're going to make a little bit smaller in 2 dimensions, but larger in the other. So I'm going to show you how. I'm going to make this 154. Now these numbers will be available to you on the instructions if you forget. By 165. Oops, 154 by, whoops, not 159. 154 by 159 by 90. Now, this box here and this box here, we need to line these up the same way. So I'm going to go, this time I'm going to do a different way. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to click on the first one, and then I'm going to click on the second one. Now, and then I'm going to remove my finger from Shift. Now everything's aligned. Now everything's selected. I'm going to go align. I'm going to click on this one because that's the one that I want to stay still. I'm going to click on the middle, and the middle again, which is this little one over here, and that's going to plonk that in the middle. Once these two things are lined up, I can actually then go combine or group, Control G, or join. And then once I do that, ta-da, I now have a box. Now because I made this box pretty tall, this box doesn't have a lid, but that's okay, because we're going to deal with that later on. Now, if you're keeping up to this point, you're doing pretty well. The next part is to put these little feet, this is what these are, is actually little feet, into each of these corners. So to do that, we just need to hold down Shift and click on both of those. This is going to take a little bit of time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go align, click on the big block, corner, corner, done. I'm going to do that for all of them. So give me a second because it's going to take a little bit. Line, corner, corner, done. Click, hold down shift, align, corner. Oops, I made a mistake there. I aligned the wrong things. So let's try this again. Shift. Align, click on the big shape because that's what we want to keep still. Corner, corner, done. Last one. Shift. Align. Click on the big shape because that's what we want to keep still. Corner, corner, done. Okay, now that I've got all these in place, I'm going to click and drag and to select everything, and now we're going to combine everything at once. Control G, group. Beautiful. So now I can go home. I can move this around a bit. Have a look, make sure everything's good. Move this into the middle. And we're almost there, ladies and gents. I know that was pretty quick, but we're actually almost there. The next step, we're going to have to do a little bit of maths from this point here, so just be ready because it's going to be a little bit difficult to do, but it should be fine. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our box hole, we're going to put a lid on top. And then the rest of that's going to be up to, we're pretty much going to be done at that point. So box lid, well, we're going to do another rectangle. Now, luckily for you, I've given you guys all these dimensions. This one here, make this pink again because, you know, I love pink. The length of this one is going to be, we're going to make it the same length as this part here, the same width as this part here, just only 3 high. I'm going to see what happens when we do that. So the length of this is going to be 160. The width is going to be 165. Well, you already see it's pretty big. And the height is only going to be 3. And then we've got this shape here. Now we're going to align these two together again. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go shift, hold down shift and click on the other one. Go align. I click on this big one because I want it to stay still. Now we're going to do 3 lines. We're going to do the middle, the side, and then we're going to align the top. Now if we align the top like that, this might look really good, but what we've actually done is we've actually put this, see, can you see how this line here, this means this is below, these two things overlap. So to counteract these things overlapping, we're going to lift this lid up just a little bit. We're going to click on this move thing here and hold it down. We're going to move it up. We're going to move it up 1, careful, 2, 3. Now, if I go like that and then I click, it's now perfectly in place. You can see now there's actually a layer. Let's combine these together so that we've got a perfectly full lid. So we're going to select everything and we're going to go combine or group, and then we're at this point here we are done with the structural elements. This is now all we need to make our box. Everything from this point onwards is just extra information. So it's just extra little bits and pieces. So it's to make our sort of thing look a bit better. Okay, so let's select some bits and pieces. First thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure that people can tell that first thing I want to do is I want to put some little holes, and these little holes are going to be great because they're going to be a place that we can put our LEDs for when we want to make, because we're going to want to make sure that people know whether the system is going well, which is a green light, or it's not working, which is a red light. To do those little LEDs, we're going to create little cylinders just like we did last time. So we're going to drag this whole cylinder over here. And these are going to be 5 by 5. There's going to be 2 of them. So I'm going to set this one up to make it perfect. 5 by 5. You know what? I'm going to make the height, because we don't want to make the height, it doesn't need to be too big. We're going to make the height 3, because that's how thick the top is. Now we've got one little cylinder. Let's make a second one. Control C, Control V. All right, cool. Oops, I'm going to undo that because I accidentally click. I'm going to move it. Okay, it's going to be a bit difficult to move because we're so far away. So let's see if I can. Okay, that's not working very well. Click. Yeah, this is a mistake. There we go. So I did that by just holding down the right button. Those are actually pretty much where I want them. Let's align them. In this case, we're going to align them with the top. So I'm going to click on. Actually, let's group these two together. Group. Because it's going to make our life easier. We're going to click on this group. Shift, click on this group. We're going to align them. Align. We're going to line up. This one we want is the one that we want to stay still. We're going to click on the top. Now, you can't see it. I'm going to click on the middle as well. And now they're perfect. Now, I don't want them to be over there, but we can fix that in a second. So I'm going to move these just a bit over to the right. Now, the position is actually not too important. It doesn't have to be exactly in a certain place, but you just want it to be, you know, close to the edge, probably near what we're going to call the front. Cool. All right, that looks pretty good. The next thing we're going to do is we want to make sure that people can tell this is our group. So I'm going to do that by putting some text. So I'm going to click and drag the text over here. Let's call this, because it's pink, let's call it group. Let's say bubblegum, because, you know, because it's pink already and I'm like, can't be bothered changing it. I'm going to keep it as red and you'll see why it doesn't actually matter. Now you can see already that this is way too big to fit on this box. So I'm going to make it a bit smaller. Then I'm going to actually tilt the page just a little bit. I'm going to tilt it just like this so I can look at the side angle. It's still a bit too big if you look at that. So, because if you look at the dimensions, it actually says here how big it is. We want this to be maybe more like 150. Let's go with that. Yeah, that'll do. And then here's the last part that's probably pretty important. We want to make this height. See the height? See how it says 6.3? Make that height 2. Yeah, see why in a sec. Now, these are the next two cool steps. We're going to click on this. I'm going to shift click on this and this. Oh, shift click this and this. Beautiful. Align. We're going to put it at the top. Or we're going to click on this one because that's the one we don't want to move. Up on top. Great. Now here's what I think is pretty cool. I'm going to click home so I can go a little bit better. I'm going to move this. Oh, nope, not that one. And I'm actually going to move this up to the very, very top. I'm just pushing the up arrow, by the way. Left and right, because the advantage of that is it makes sure that it doesn't change height. So I'm not going up too high or down too low, it's just staying in that height. And here's the cool part. I think this is cool. I'm going to make this a hole. When I now select everything, because I've got to make sure that and I go group, it's actually going to cut a hole into the top. Now you can actually do the opposite. You can actually lift it up a bit so it actually makes a bit of a I think the opposite of emboss. So this is like an emboss because it's in. I think the opposite of an emboss, I can't remember. It's like it sticks out. I'll remember later. So now we've got, again, this is the last little bit. So yeah, now we've got a pretty good looking box. We're starting to make it a little bit more personal. We can keep adding to the personality. The next thing that I think is pretty useful to do is, and this is going to be the next level skill. If you get up to this point though, fully fine to print this, you're good. But the next step is to kind of make it look a bit we want to add, because we've got lights, we're also going to have a buzzer. So we're going to make a beep sound when the door opens up. So if we're going to make a buzzer, we should make a hole for that. Now we could design one using all this complicated stuff, but it would take us a while. So if you go into Google Classroom, we're going to leave a speaker hole system available to you. I've already downloaded it, so I'm going to import it now. I'm going to choose a file, and the file that I've named it down on my computer as, I go to downloads, here, speaker. So if I click on speaker, I open that up. See how it's got this lines here. You can look up your own speaker if you want, but yeah, we're going to import that. We're going to see how big this turns out. I bet it's going to be too big. Oh, look how big that is. So we're going to shrink this down. Again, pretty easy. I'm going to hold down shift. If I hold down shift, what it does is it keeps its ratios. Okay, that's annoying because it's gone over here. It's one of the problems with the Tinkercad is it's just a little bit, it never feels like there's enough space. Have I jammed my computer? Look, no, looks like I haven't yet. So we're going to drag it a little bit. We want it to be pretty small. As you can tell for this part, it's a bit up to you. Now, again, we want this one, this time we want it to be cut all the way through. So we're going to make this one about, well, actually, I think I want it to be a little bit smaller than that. We're getting close. Just a little bit. Let's go with that. So let's go with 30 by 30. But guys, if you are it's up to you, but if you're recording this, if you're trying to copy what I'm doing, I've gone with 30 by 30. We're going to make it 3 millimeters thick. And then we're going to check, because we want to cut this into the thing, we'll turn this into a hole. Now if I click on this, hold down shift, click on the object, align, click on the object. I keep doing the same thing over and over again. Click on the top. Now we've got it at the top. Now I'm going to put this over here. That seems like a pretty good place there. Oh, do I think that's too big? I still think that's a bit too big. I'm actually going to reduce the size just a little bit. I'm going to reduce this down to 20 by, 20 by 20. When I eventually click on the damn thing, 20 by 20. There we go. I think that's pretty good now. Now we still haven't, Control Z to undo. We still haven't combined this yet, so it's still floating around. But if I now click on, if I highlight everything and I go group, then bang, it cuts it in and we've got a new shape. If I go underneath, I should see, yeah, can you see the slits? That means they've gone through. And I can even maybe, this would be cool. Can I zoom in and actually see through? I can see through the whole, yeah, I can't really tell, to be honest with you. But it should be cut all the way through, especially if I can see from underneath those lines. That means it's cutting through. Those will be very, very thin, but it should still 3D print it should still be a hole there. The last part is, hey guys, I'm going to show you the final part. If you really want to add some extra flair to your box, you don't need to do this. This is where I'd suggest you go. VECTEEZY, vecteezy.com. Now it's actually called VectEezy because of vectors, which is something we learned about at the very start. Vectors are a way of drawing. Now VectEezy gives you a bunch of files you can actually add to your 3D printed model. Let me show you. We're gonna pretend that we're doing this for bubblegum. This is pretty advanced stuff. And if you want to as well, if you really like drawing, you want to do this in Adobe, you can do this in Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. But I'm not a good drawer, so I'm going to rely on other people. I'm going to type in bubblegum. I'm going to see what comes up. Now the problem with these pictures is you've got to remember that they're just going to cut out just the outside. Imagine that we're going to cut out just the outside. So for example, that looks like, this one here looks like a great picture, but if I went to cut that out, it would look really weird if I just cut out the outside. Same with these ones. I think these marble gum will look fine, but for example, the rest of these will look a bit weird if you're just cutting around the outside. I like the sweet here. Let's try the sweet. So if I click here, and it sort of looks like chewing gum, you know. How do we do this? If I go edit, what that does is it brings open here. Now, if you want, sorry, I'll go back a second. If you didn't see where I pushed that edit button, when I open up a file that I like, I push edit in the bottom right, and that will open up this here. All I got to do now is trim away the stuff I don't want. I don't want this back screen. I don't want any of this stuff here. You could maybe use this gumball if you wanted to, but I'm not. I just want to focus on this guy here. Once I've trimmed away everything, look at that. I'm going to actually move this over here. Now you might have to click on some extra parts. Like I can click on this middle part here and delete that if I wanted to as well. But I'm not going to. I've just accidentally drawn a shape here by accident. Actually, what I've done is by clicking on that shape in the middle, I've actually made that part disappear, but that's okay. So now we've got this shape here. I'm actually going to change the, that's why, just randomly selected that. I'm actually going to change the size of this page. Background, click down here, drag it up there, beautiful. Download. As an SVG vector, I accept, download, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, downloaded. By the way, if you see something here that says Pro, you can't really use that unless you want to pay. So it's going to be Untitled 6. So we go back to our vector, we go back to our box cover, we go import again, but this time we've got a new one. We're going to import Untitled 6. And here is our suite. But remember, it's not going to look like that. If I import this in, is it imported? It has imported. Where is it? Oh, look, here it is. See how it's pretty massive? Oh, yeah, it's pretty big. But it kind of looks like a suite. So I'm going to now make this. I'm going to shrink it a bit. So I'm going to click on top. Yeah, we're definitely going to shrink this. I reckon I'm going to hold down shift and change the size. I reckon that's pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the height of this. Make that 3. Then I'm going to now shift click both of those, align. I'm going to click on the top so it moves it up to the top. Oops, I'm going to shift click. I'm going to align it also smack bang in the middle. So we're going to move it middle, middle. But now the last step is this. I actually don't want to emboss this one. I actually want to, oops, not that. I actually want to move it up. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to move it up because I want it to stick out. I'm going to move it up 3. That's now sticking out. Again, highlight everything. Group, and we're done. That is Group Bubblegum's nice little pink thing with a speaker, with headphones out, with LEDs out, speaker out, name of the group, a symbol, and down the bottom 4 screw attachments, bolts, and that's going to go over our electronics, which I think is pretty cool. The next step to finish this off is to export it, and you can export it as an STL. There's everything in this design. If you have something here that's not selected, you might have to change it, but it should see everything in this design. STL, if you're missing something, and then it'll download boxcover.stl, and there's your file. Anyway, that should be everything. Hopefully that made sense to you, but if you missed out on a step, just go back and rewatch a particular section. The last section here, by the way, the whole extra bubble, the extra icon here, the speaker holes, those are all extra. So if you don't want to do them, then that's fine. Anyway, I'm going to thank you guys for listening, and I will upload this now.